Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump says North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has responded to his overtures for talks. This comes after he ordered the Pentagon to scale back joint military exercises with South Korea, citing the cost of the drills and Seoul's refusal to take part in actions against Iran. South Korea's ruling Democratic Party has elected Kim Min-seok as its new leader, after he defeated rival Chung Chung-rae in Monday's vote. Kim, who served as prime minister under President Lee Jae-myung, pledged unity and vowed to help advance the Lee administration's agenda. Torrential rain has battered South Korea's southern regions. Geoje received more than 800 millimeters of rain from Saturday through Monday morning, triggering a deadly landslide that killed one person and forced hundreds of residents to evacuate. U.S. President Donald Trump says North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has responded to overtures for dialogue between Washington and Pyongyang after giving orders for the United States to substantially reduce joint exercises with South Korea. Our Cho Young-eun starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump said Monday that North Korean leader Kim Jong Un had responded to his request for dialogue between the United States and North Korea. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump was asked whether he had received a response from the North Korean leader.
How do you know he hasn't responded?
Has he?
Yeah, he has.
When asked where the talks currently stand, Trump said they were very positive. Trump offered no further details about when or how Kim responded or what the North Korean leader said. He did say that Kim has always treated him with great respect and added that the two leaders have a good relationship. Trump also defended his decision to scale back joint military exercises with South Korea, saying the move would make the situation with the North safer.
No, I'm making it much safer. You see, I'm actually making it much safer. Kim Jong Un has always treated me with great respect, and we met on numerous occasions, actually, two primary occasions, spoken and spent time. I understand him, he understands me. You're doing war games. I get along with him.
Trump called for fairness, citing South Korea and NATO allies and arguing that the U.S. cannot continue protecting other countries without greater support from them. Earlier Sunday, Trump said in a post on Truth Social that he had instructed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce joint military exercises with South Korea. Trump said he was not happy about U.S. participation in the exercises, citing the cost and his very good relationship with the North Korean leader. He also claimed that South Korea had recently declined to join the United States in the denuclearization of Iran. Trump also emphasized that the United States maintain a good relationship with South Korea as well. Cho Young-eun, Arirang News.
And now for more on U.S. President Donald Trump ordering the Pentagon to scale back joint drills with South Korea. We're joined today by Professor Andrew Millard, Head of Department at the Department of International Relations at Changwon National University. Professor Millard, thanks for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So President Donald Trump has ordered cuts to joint drills with South Korea. So before we get into detail, some experts suggest this could carry a high cost with relatively little benefit. What's your take on this, and how could scaling back these exercises affect security on the Korean Peninsula?
So there's a few different things we should look at here. Firstly, this has come a little bit out of the blue. So just last Friday, the Americans and Koreans gave a press conference saying, oh, everything's going ahead as normal. So this has come a little bit out of sort of left field. However, when it comes to the costs, in the short term, I don't think we'll really see any major costs. I think the actual costs will be the physical costs. So as Donald Trump is saying, he wants to reduce the money being spent. So any sort of reduction will save some financial costs. But however, in the short term, I don't think it will be too costly, because actually if we go back, even back 30 years to the mid-1990s under President Clinton, even then President Clinton also reduced some of the annual drills. Donald Trump, in his first term in office, so 2018, 2019, also reduced and stopped the annual drills. Then during COVID, they were also dropped back. So we've had several examples in the past where these drills either have been reduced or just postponed, and it hasn't caused any major long-term disruption. Where the long-term disruption here could come in is the fact that what are these drills for? These annual drills are about deterrence, showing North Korea that the US-South Korea alliance is very strong. We have all of these capabilities. And very importantly, we have readiness. The South Koreans and the Americans, they can coordinate, they can use all of these new technologies. And this is where this could be quite costly for this instance, because in these current drills, they were potentially looking at sort of using drone technology, electronic jamming, the sort of things we're seeing used in Ukraine, where the North Koreans are gaining invaluable experience in real-time warfare use. So the fact that we could see reduction, where there could be some reduced coordination between the US and South Korea, this is where there could be more long-term costs.
Right, and Trump says North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has responded to this, and he also talked about how he has good relationship with Kim. So do you think we could see talks between the United States and North Korea in the near future?
It's possible. The fact that President Trump and Kim Jong Un have a good relationship. Now, we should be careful when we say they do have a good relationship. North Korea hasn't said anything. So Donald Trump did say today that North Korea has responded, but there's been no official word from North Korea. There's also been no official confirmation from anyone else in the US either. But really, we should be asking, what is this good relationship actually producing? And at the moment, it's not producing anything of benefit, especially to the United States. Potentially, you could say it's producing benefits for North Korea. It's giving them time, allowing them to further deepen their security guarantees with Russia and China, build their capabilities further. And so if we talk about having a new sort of summit, new talks between the US and North Korea, the US is going to have to offer North Korea something substantial. And now this could be either ignoring denuclearization, just taking that off the table completely, which would be quite ironic considering what is happening in Iran at the moment, or the US would have to offer quite substantial sanctions reductions. But either way, we're going to see, if there are some talks, something quite substantial of benefit to North Korea, maybe not so beneficial to the US and South Korea.
I see. And Trump also talked about said this cutting back of joint exercise is because of Seoul's refusal to support his push to denuclearize Iran. And some analysts say this is a sharp turnaround from how his administration has viewed South Korea in recent months. So does this signal a broader shift in Trump's view of South Korea?
So the first thing is, Donald Trump in his post on Truth Social said that South Korea just said, oh, no, thanks, we don't want to help you there. Now, this isn't necessarily true. This is sort of Donald Trump's more simplistic style. Actually, the South Koreans, they've said, no, look, we have our processes, we have our legal procedures that we have to go through. We are looking into this. We haven't said no. We also haven't said yes. Okay. But they are looking into this. So this one we need to be a little bit careful about. Now, also, does this signal a broader shift in Trump's? I would argue no. Even since Donald Trump's first term in office, Donald Trump has been quite negative about South Korea in terms of trade, but also in terms of defense, security. Very regularly, he said South Korea does not pay enough for American troops in South Korea, doesn't pay enough for these annual drills. So in terms of that, we would actually say, no, this is sort of just that sort of swing where sometimes Donald Trump is happy with South Korea. So a couple of months ago in the G7, President Trump, President Lee had dinner together. They were talking about golf invitations. Trump gave Lee a pen. Things were very good, but then suddenly say, no, they need to spend more on defense. So I think, it doesn't really show a broader shift in his perspective.
And as for inter-Korean relations, President Lee Jae-myung called for talks with North Korea on officially ending this Korean war in his Liberation Day address. But North Korea has remained silent. What's your take on this proposal, and how likely is it, do you think it's going to gain traction with North Korea?
So this one, again, sort of is a continuation of sort of the Democratic Party's sort of way to try to engage with North Korea. So I think presently he's trying to show North Korea that this is a very different administration to the previous Yoon administration, which was not so engaging. And like I said, just that general continuation. If you go back sort of 30 years of democratic parties in Korea trying to engage and bring North Korea into the negotiations. Now, again, for North Korea to respond, what is South Korea going to have to offer? Well, it's, again, very similar to the US. This idea of denuclearization has to be completely off the table. So actually, this is quite a good strategy from President Lee, because this sort of agreement, North Korea doesn't have to give up any sort of material assets. It wouldn't have to mention denuclearization at all. And so this is possibly a way where they can bring North Korea in. But again, what is the benefit for North Korea to do this at the moment with its continuing security guarantees from Russia, from China? It doesn't need to do this. It would want to see some more benefits in order to come back to the table.
I see. All right, Professor Miller, thank you so much for your time and insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
The yield on 30-year U.S. Treasuries climbed to its highest level in nearly 2 decades on Monday, as investors grow increasingly concerned about rising government debt and persistent inflation. The yield on the benchmark long-term bond rose 3 basis points to 5.29%, its highest since 2007, and close to the 5.44% peak reached before the 2009 global financial crisis. The move reflects a broader trend across global bond markets as investors demand greater returns to compensate for swelling government debt and inflation that has remained above the Federal Reserve's target. Those inflation concerns are also raising expectations that short-term interest rates could remain elevated for longer. Korea's ruling party begins a new chapter under newly elected Kim Min-seok's leadership, with unity and policy coordination emerging as key tests following a closely fought race. Our Moon Yeon went to the Democratic Party's national convention in Daejeon to file this report.
The ruling Democratic Party has chosen Kim Min-seok as its new leader. Kim defeated rival Chung Cheong-rae in Monday's vote, winning 54.08% to Chung's 45.92%, after neither candidate secured a majority in the first round, sending the contest to a preferential runoff. Kim, who served as Prime Minister under President Lee Jae-myung, entered the race as a frontrunner, campaigning as the candidate best placed to support the administration's agenda. Chung, a party veteran known for his hardline reformist stance, emphasized his credentials to advance a reform agenda. In his acceptance speech, Kim framed his election as a mandate to support the president and lead the party with unity.
Our party will work tirelessly to make President Lee Jae-myung's administration a success, because its success means success for the people. We'll debate when we need to, speak up when something needs to be said, stand as a shield when necessary, and make sure the voices of the people are heard.
President Lee also sent a congratulatory video message to the convention, urging party members to unite behind the new leadership after a period of fierce debate and competition. As leader, Kim will help advance the administration's agenda, including major semiconductor projects, while facing tax reform, housing measures, market stabilization, and constitutional reform. The party holds an outright majority in the National Assembly, giving Kim a central role in legislative strategy. The closer-than-expected margin pointed to continued support for Chang's approach, reflected in the new leadership, where 3 of 5 elected Supreme Council seats went to Chang-aligned figures, leaving Kim the task of bringing together different voices within the Democratic Party. Kim's leadership will now be tested by how effectively he can steer those different camps together to bring the party through the administration's policy agenda. 문혜련, Arirang News, Daejeon.
Record-breaking rainfall has battered Gyeongsangnam-do province, triggering a deadly landslide in Geoje that killed 1 person and forced hundreds from their homes. More than 800 millimeters of rain fell in parts of the region over the weekend, flooding schools and raising fears of further damage. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Record-breaking rainfall battered Gyeongsangnam-do province over the holiday weekend, triggering a deadly landslide that killed 1 and forced hundreds of residents from their homes. The city of Geoje, more than 300 kilometers southeast of Seoul, received more than 805 millimeters of rain from Saturday through 8 a.m. on Monday. Nearby Dongyang received nearly 672 millimeters, while other parts of the province saw between 240 and 340 millimeters. Heavy rain warnings remained in effect for 5 areas, including Geoje and Dongyang, on Monday morning, with advisories issued across much of the region. In Geoje, a landslide struck an apartment building at around 4:40 a.m. on Monday.
I heard shouts of "help me" from there, and when I looked around, a little child was inside the master bedroom.
Police and firefighters rescued 3 residents, but 1 was found unresponsive and later pronounced dead at a hospital. The downpours also caused widespread flooding, affecting at least 12 schools and kindergartens in Geoje and Dongyang. The number of damage reports received, including flooded houses, roads, and fallen trees, reached over 2,500. According to officials, 564 people had been displaced as of 9 p.m. Sunday, with 240 of them still unable to return home. Authorities continue to monitor landslide and flooding risks as saturated ground and ongoing rainfall raise concerns about further damage across the region. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
As robot technology advances, its use in the medical sector is also expanding. Robots are already helping surgeons connect tiny blood vessels less than 1 millimeter in diameter, and they're now expected to evolve further, potentially taking over some roles traditionally performed by medical staff. Our Cha Yoon-kyung tells us more.
Super microsurgery, which involves connecting blood vessels or lymphatic vessels thinner than a human hair, is extremely difficult, with fewer than 600 specialists worldwide capable of performing it. However, robots can scale down a surgeon's hand movements and filter out natural hand tremors, making these highly delicate procedures more widely accessible.
What is groundbreaking about the robot is that it makes surgeries under 1 millimeter possible for about anyone as long as they have skill in microsurgery.
Research is also underway to make robots function as actual members of the medical team, going beyond simply replicating a surgeon's hand movements. During surgery, professional support staff, such as assistant doctors and nurses, are essential alongside the operating surgeon. In these cases, humanoid robots could take over some assistant roles in the operating room, allowing existing support staff to be deployed to other medical duties.
We believe they can start with roles such as operating the scope or retracting and holding surgical tissues, because this can increase accessibility to surgery and improve the average quality of operations.
Moving forward, technologies that combine robotics with artificial intelligence are expected to emerge, allowing robots to make independent judgments and movements. Robot technology continues to advance, taking on more delicate and diverse roles in medical fields that were once beyond human reach. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. President Donald Trump's envoy has wrapped up 2 days of talks with Israel and Hamas without a breakthrough. Jared Kushner left Jerusalem on Monday with both sides holding firm. Kushner met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel on Monday for nearly 4 hours. Netanyahu said Israel will not withdraw from Gaza until Hamas is completely disarmed. Hamas says it will not hand over its weapons until Israel halts its attacks and pulls its forces back. Kushner called the meeting with Netanyahu, quote, good, and added that during his meeting with Hamas in Egypt the day before, Hamas representatives said all the right things. He said work or removing weapons could begin in as little as 30 days. In Indonesia, thousands of people are still waiting for help 2 days after a powerful earthquake. The country marked its Independence Day on Monday in mourning. The earthquake struck Flores Island early on Saturday, killing at least 68 people, injuring 213 others, and damaging more than 4,000 homes. Some 19,000 people are now in temporary shelters. The quake also damaged 122 health facilities, 252 schools, and 84 places of worship. More than 1,800 soldiers and police officers are working across the disaster zone. In Europe, the European Union is preparing its biggest expansion of sanctions on Russia since the war in Ukraine began. Foreign Police Chief Kaja Kallas said on Monday that the new listings would raise the number of sanctioned Russian entities by a third. Diplomatic sources said the bloc will propose sanctions on about 1,600 individuals and companies with links to Russia's military-industrial complex. The EU has already placed sanctions on nearly 3,000 people and companies. The list is expected to go to EU countries in early September. In the United States, actress Hayden Panettiere has died at the age of 36. Her family announced her death on Sunday. Police in Greenville, South Carolina said she was found unresponsive and pronounced dead at the scene. In May, Panettiere published a memoir about childhood stardom, postpartum depression, and alcohol addiction. Hayden is best known for her roles as a cheerleader with superpowers on Heroes and a country music star on Nashville. She was nominated for 2 Golden Globes.
We surely needed rain in Gyeongsangnam-do province, but not this much. More than 600 millimeters of rain fell in parts of Gyeongsangnam-do province in just one day over the holiday weekend, after the region had been suffering from severe drought. And more rain is expected this morning, especially across southern coastal areas. So the south coast could see 10 to 50 millimeters of showers through this morning, while Jeju Island could see up to 60 millimeters through this afternoon. Meanwhile, passing rain is expected across inland areas, while southern coast could see up to 60 millimeters along with thunderstorms. And all this moisture in the air will make for humid conditions across much of country, raising the feels-like temperatures. Besides, temperatures will stay a couple of degrees higher than seasonal norms, with most major cities seeing highs at 32 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Rain will return to parts of southern Korea tomorrow morning, with warmer than average temperatures continuing into the weekend.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.